Do you ever notice yourself giving long explanations for simple things, even when no one asked? That habit might not be awkwardness. It might be your brain trying to protect you. You may have caught yourself doing it just today. Someone asks a simple question, and before you know it, you're clarifying your tone, your intention, your reasoning, the background context, maybe even your emotional state at the time. And while you're talking, a small voice in your mind is watching, monitoring, adjusting, making sure nothing you say could possibly be misunderstood. Sometimes you even hear yourself and think, "Why am I still talking?" But you keep going. Not because you want attention, not because you love the sound of your own voice, but because somewhere deep inside, your mind has learned that being misunderstood doesn't feel safe. And that learning usually didn't start yesterday. It tends to begin much earlier, often in environments where words were closely examined, corrected, or questioned. Childhood spaces where tone mattered more than intention, where a simple statement could be met with, "What do you mean by that?" or "That's not what you said before." In those moments, a developing brain starts forming a quiet rule. Explain more, and you'll avoid trouble. Over time, that rule becomes automatic, not conscious, not deliberate, just there, like a reflex. Psychology sometimes calls this anticipatory social threat processing, which sounds technical, but really, it just means your mind tries to predict misunderstanding before it happens. It scans for possible misinterpretations the way some people scan a room for exits. And if it detects even a small chance that someone could take your words the wrong way, it adds more detail, more qualifiers, more reassurance. Not because the extra explanation is necessary, but because it feels safer than the risk of silence. You might notice this especially in texts or emails. You write a sentence, then reread it, then add a smiley face, or a "just to clarify," or "no pressure at all," or "I hope that makes sense." And sometimes you still feel a flicker of doubt after sending it. Not panic exactly, just a subtle tension, a wondering. Did they read it the way I meant it? That question can linger longer than you'd like. What's interesting is that people who do this are often highly perceptive socially. They're good at reading micro-expressions, tone shifts, pauses. They sense when something feels slightly off in a conversation, and yet that sensitivity can turn inward. Instead of only reading others, they start reading themselves, monitoring themselves, editing themselves mid-sentence. It's a kind of internal observation loop, awareness watching awareness. Useful in many situations, but exhausting when it never turns off. Sometimes this pattern is connected to impression management, the psychological process where we try to shape how others perceive us. Everyone does it to some degree. But for chronic over-explainers, it becomes less about presentation and more about prevention. Prevention of conflict, prevention of rejection, prevention of that subtle facial expression someone might make if they misunderstand you. So your mind thinks, if I just explain a little more, I can stop that from happening. And for a moment, it works. The anxiety softens. The conversation continues. The system learns. Explanation equals relief. But often, there's another layer underneath that most people don't see. A quiet history of moments where you were misunderstood. Times when you said something harmless and it was taken as rude. Times when you tried to express yourself and someone responded with criticism instead of curiosity. The brain remembers those moments vividly because social pain activates many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. So it adapts. It builds strategies. And over-explaining can become one of them. A kind of conversational armor. You may even notice that you don't do it equally with everyone. With safe people, people who feel easy and predictable, your words might flow naturally. Shorter sentences, fewer disclaimers. But around people who feel harder to read, or slightly judgmental, or emotionally distant, the explanations return. Longer, more detailed, more careful. Almost like your nervous system is saying, "We need extra protection here." And yet, from the outside, others don't always see the protection. They might see thoroughness or thoughtfulness, or sometimes they might misread it as nervousness, which can feel frustrating because the very behavior meant to prevent misunderstanding can occasionally create it. That's one of the quiet paradoxes of human behavior. The strategies that once protected us don't always translate smoothly into every adult environment. There's also a cognitive piece to this. Many people who overexplain have highly active associative thinking. Their minds naturally connect ideas, details, and possibilities very quickly. So when they answer a question, they don't just see one response. They see 10 related points, 5 clarifications, and 3 possible misinterpretations. To them, sharing that extra context feels logical, complete, responsible even. But listeners who don't see those same mental branches might wonder why the explanation feels so detailed. Sometimes you might sense this happening while you're mid-conversation, a moment where part of you wants to stop talking, and another part insists, "Finish explaining or they won't get it." That inner split is actually your self-monitoring system at work. It's the same system that helps humans navigate social groups, maintain relationships, and avoid conflict. In moderation, it's incredibly adaptive. It helps us cooperate, empathize, and communicate clearly. But when it becomes overactive, it can feel like you're carrying a spotlight inside your mind, constantly shining it on your own words. And what's important, and often overlooked, is that this habit is rarely about weakness. In many cases, it reflects a mind that learned to be precise because precision once mattered. A mind that became attentive because attentiveness once prevented problems. A mind that pays attention to nuance, tone, and detail because at some point, those things made a difference. If you think about it, over-explaining is not just a communication style, it's a history, a pattern shaped slowly, moment by moment, interaction by interaction. And like most deeply learned patterns, it doesn't announce itself as it forms. It just quietly becomes part of how you speak, how you respond, how you relate. Until one day you notice it, maybe in the middle of a sentence, maybe after sending a message, maybe right now, as you reflect on your own conversations and wonder when exactly your mind first decided that being fully understood required saying just a little more than everyone else.